There's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Man, this stuff rocks.
This is Justin Symbol of the God Bombs, and you are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Hour, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, aka the Bodfather, and as always, I'm bringing you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today, it's an honor and a huge privilege to welcome Justin Symbol of the God Bombs, and the God Bombs have released their new single entitled "Bleed," and check out single "Black and Yellow" featuring Lorraine. Also off the upcoming album entitled "GodHead," and this album is the long-awaited conceptual follow-up to Justin's 2014 solo debut, GÅDHEAD. Bleed and Black and Yellow were directed by Jason Kaplan. So, Justin, welcome to the podcast. Actually, welcome back to the podcast again. And how you doing, my friend?
Thank you so much. I'm good. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, man. Hanging in there.
We're about to go on tour, so we're just getting ready for that. And we're leaving here tomorrow, so very excited.
All right, so the new album, GodHead, is the follow-up to your 2014 solo debut, GÅDHEAD. Is the new album, GodHead, a continuation of that solo album debut, possibly?
I would say it is. I mean, there's a lot of parallels in there that carry. It's like a sequel. It carries through. There's a lot of themes that carry through. Specifically like the theme of spirituality. So GÅDHEAD was all about like feeling nihilistic, feeling like nothingness. GodHead is the evolution of that character into somewhere where there's a sense of spirituality and a spiritual journey that the character is on. And that character is very much kind of autobiographical. So it's really about my journey.
How excited are you to have these new singles, Bleed and Black and Yellow, out at this time, man?
Oh, I'm really excited to have these new songs out. I mean, this definitely represents the new direction that we're going in. It's the first new singles that feature the new lineup, and all of our band members are involved in this. So it's a new sound. It's fresh. It's exciting. And of course, working with Jason Kaplan, I just think we've really taken things to the next level.
How special, Justin, is it going to have this album in the God Bombs music library and still be able to carry on with your guys' music?
I mean, for me, this has been years in the making. I've been wanting to release GodHead. Pretty much, I've been talking about GodHead since we first put out GODHEAD, many years ago now. And I thought it was going to come right on the heels of GODHEAD. At the time, we were even starting to write the first song on the album, or the first single for the album, which is called The Holiest of the Holies. That song was actually in production all the way back then when we released GODHEAD. And so was the title track, GodHead. But however, it just, one thing led to another. We actually recorded the entire album with an old lineup that I had, and I wasn't happy with it at all. It didn't have the sound I was looking for. It was too like rock and roll, garage rock sounding. And I was going for more of like an industrial rock sound, like very similar to GODHEAD. And so it took me years to really get to a place where I could take those songs and update them and add a bunch of new songs and like really fully tell this story.
How difficult was that, though, to sit there and say, okay, I've got this now and we need to do this all over? I mean, just scratch it, do everything all over. That had to be really frustrating, though.
It was. I mean, it took years. It was really the result of an old lineup that I had kind of falling apart, where I was having creative differences with some, specifically with the drummer that I had back then. And he was kind of like taking charge of the version of the album that was happening back then. It was coming out in a way that it just didn't sound like the sound I wanted. It was very like garage rock sounding. And the songs, it was just it wasn't really the vibe I was really thinking in my head. And I'm very good at like, manifesting what's going on in my mind. But when you're butting heads creatively and you got like two people who both think they're kind of in charge of things, it just kind of imploded. So for a long time, it was really emotional because like I had all this, these bad emotions associated with some of these songs. And it wasn't until now where I was ready to really like take my power back. And when I did Voidhead the first time, I had gotten sober during the creation of Voidhead, and this album Godhead was a full circle moment because at some point I slipped on my sobriety about a year and a half ago, and now I have 7 months back. So once again, it was like the right timing of a full circle moment. I'm getting sober again. I'm clear-headed again. I'm ready to finish this story that I started, which was all about a story about spirituality and like spiritual growth and finding oneself in such a confusing world. And I even went to Israel again, which was kind of the experience that set off the whole Voidhead thing. I went back, so it was like this full circle thing that happened, and it just now was the right time to finally tell this story.
How's the fans' feedback been so far on the release of the new singles Bleed and Black and Yellow? What have you seen, man, that's like really got you excited that you're seeing the feedback from the fans?
I think people are really excited about the new sound and kind of feel like, okay, he's back. Like he found himself again. I had gone through a period of time where I was doing more like hip hop style music. I was just trying to find myself again. And I think my fan base as a whole has been very supportive of this new era. And they've all kind of said like, okay, this is the Justin we know. And this was the music we were waiting for. I mean, even with like Voidhead, it featured Daisy Berkowitz, who was the original guitarist from Marilyn Manson.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a very specific guitar tone. Like if you think about songs like Sweet Dreams or like songs like Tourniquet from Antichrist Superstar, it has that haunting kind of tone. And we even channeled that tone. Unfortunately, Daisy passed away a number of years ago, but I was one of the last people that was fortunate enough to work with him. And we really channeled that tone on the new song, Black and Yellow, especially like Lorraine, our featured guitarist on that song. He created this haunting tone. And it just like, I felt like the ghost of Daisy was there with me in the room. I even had a mutual acquaintance recently gave me the guitar pegs from the guitar that was used on Portrait of an American Family, which is the first Manson record.
Oh, wow.
It was Daisy's. It was pieces of Daisy's guitar, and I had a mutual acquaintance of mine and Daisy's who said, "Look, I want you to have these." So I had these pieces of his old guitar. I had all this stuff that he gave me before he passed away, and then like we just channeled something, and it was like, okay, this just feels right. So I think the fans are responding unanimously and saying like, "This is you. You found yourself again." And it just feels good to be back and to finally be able to tell this story. And, I never could have imagined it would have taken so long to tell it. But there's so many twists and turns. And, I just wasn't ready. I wasn't in a place spiritually to be able to do Godhead until now, where I feel like I really connected to myself again.
Justin, do you think that this is your redemption album, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. I think, when I did, there were records in between Voidhead and this record, which were a lot about like being lost and just trying to like use like sexuality to escape. Like, cause I was sober, but I did records like Candyman and Fuckboy and all the music I did under the name Star Daddy. It was very much like all about womanizing and like, objectification and using sex to try to like escape myself. That's really where I was at. I wasn't really spiritually sound. I was kind of like sober at the time, but I was just like really trying to get outside of myself. And now I feel like I'm finally grounded again. I'm ready to kind of redeem myself. I guess you could say like, I feel like the same person, the same energy that created that Voidhead album, which was an energy of like optimism and like feeling like there's faith that things can go well and feeling secure in myself. I think that I haven't felt that way in a while. And now I feel that way again. So it is like a redemption.
Bleed and Black and Yellow. So, folks, that's 2 songs. Okay, I'm split these apart. These are 2 songs. They were directed by Jason Kaplan. How was working with this guy on this?
I love Jason Kaplan. Jason Kaplan is a big part of this redemption arc, I guess you could say. We work together on a number of videos now, and he's seen me kind of at that point where I was lost, and he really believed in me and pushed me. And he was like, I want to keep working with you because I love your sound. I love your vision. And we were just excited to do stuff that was more like horror oriented. And so we started with Black and Yellow. We kind of started really exploring that horror theme. And then we continued it with Bleed. And it's like each of those videos is kind of like telling a story with actual narratives. And that's something I haven't done in a music video in a very long time, if ever, really. I mean, most music videos are just little vignettes and they don't really like tell a full story. Right. It's mostly just the band playing. These videos we're really like telling a horror story. So we're actually going to continue working together for more of the singles from the upcoming GodHead album. And we're going to continue this horror narrative kind of theme where we're like really telling a story with each video.
So this album is completed right now. Is that correct?
It's in the process of being completed. All the songs have been written, and it's just a matter of mixing the songs. A few of the band members are adding their parts. We just got a new guitarist, a keyboard player who plays a guitar. And his name is Zig, and he's been adding keyboards to the album. There's just a few, our live drummer will be adding some drums and stuff. And so we're really just putting the finishing touches on it and kind of mixing them one by one. So, but the songs are all written, and it definitely tells a story, which is a sequel of GÅDHEAD. GÅDHEAD was about self-destruction, being lost, and kind of like almost like a suicide kind of theme, similar to like 9 Inch Nails, the Downward Spiral record. GodHead is kind of about finding oneself again and feeling like a sense of spirituality and a sense of purpose in the world, and not letting the world destroy you. So it's very much like a yin yang type experience.
So are you wanting to release this year? Or are you kind of holding off to maybe first of next year?
At this point, I think what we're leaning towards is probably either October of this year or early next year. We haven't set a release date yet because, we're just letting the songs unfold. I know that more videos and more singles will be released this year, but I have a suspicion that the album itself may come out in 2024, which is actually 10 years after the GÅDHEAD album. So it's kind of a perfect timing.
How important is it for you to talk about mental health and addiction in these songs, man? How important is that for you to express what you went through? And if somebody's out there listening, can grab a hold of it.
I mean, I think that's like really one of the core themes of my life is, I used to think I was fucked up, and I wanted to share my story with people who were fucked up too. Now I think of it more like the world is fucked up. And there's some of us out there are sensitive, and we just don't handle it well. We feel overwhelmed by this world because we live in a very unnatural world, a very strange society, which kind of pits people against each other. And it's just a weird way of living. So it's not so much me that's fucked up. It's really like the world at large. But what I want to tell people is there's better ways to cope with that feeling of being lost or of not understanding, like, why am I constantly feeling like I'm not enough? Well, you're feeling like you're not enough because that's the main message that society is telling you, because they want you to buy this or do this or look this way so that you can fit in and be told that you're good enough. Right. So it's like a bunch of people that are telling you you're never good enough, and they're the ones running the show. So I want to tell people, like, you are good enough, and there's ways to be grounded and find like a sense of calmness within the storm, so to speak. So, my ideas about being sober or being spiritual have changed over the years, but the basic message is the same, which is like, you can exist in this world without destroying yourself, and you can make the world a better place in the process.
You know, man, talking about this, I know that growing up, you had to have bands and songs that influenced you, that saved you, and made you feel like, hey, I do belong. Now you're on that hot seat of creating music like this now. How does that feel when you have fans come up to you and say, hey Justin, man, if it hadn't been for this song, I wouldn't be here this day? Or they took a song and they've just made it their anthem to give them hope for the next day or two. I mean, how does that feel to you?
It's a full circle moment because it's surreal, because you realize, like, when you're growing up, your parents are invincible, or your heroes, your rock and roll heroes. Growing up, to me, like, Marilyn Manson was invincible to me. Like, he was like a god. And now it's like, when you're in that position where people are telling you, you saved me, or your song changed me, and people tell me that all the time. And it's like, wow, I'm kind of like one of those people that I idolized. But when you're there, you're like, oh shit, it's kind of scary. It's like when you have a kid and you're like, damn, when I was a kid, I thought my parents were like, could protect me from anything. And then, then when you're a parent, you're like, oh, I'm just a person. I'm not some mythological being. I'm just a person, so that's how I feel. I'm just a person spreading a message. But at the same time, it really brings me a lot of joy, because, there was a voice in my mind, and I talk about that in Bleed, that's telling me I'm nothing, I'm not good enough, I'm never going to succeed, I'm never, there's no point, and I might as well kill myself. So every day, every moment that I'm out here on tour, or I'm doing music, and some kids hearing that and saying, like, wow, this changed my life, that's directly contradicting that voice. It's like saying fuck you to that voice that was like trying to get me to destroy myself, so it's a really good feeling to know that you can rise above your past traumas or your own mental stuff, and you can, like, reach out there and, like, positively influence others.
Are you guys adding anything differently on this album musically than what fans are going to be accustomed to hearing?
I think it's more advanced musically. I think there's a level of musicality that has hit a new plateau on this record. It really is. I would say it's the thing I'm the most proud of musically that I've ever done. I think the guitar is phenomenal. There's some great guitar solos and leads. And I know that's not something, I'm especially known for. Being like industrial rock, you don't really think of like a great guitar solo per se. It's more about sound design and stuff usually. But of course, all those bells and whistles and those awesome sound design, industrial stuff, that's all there. But also just like some really soulful guitar work, some great lyrics. I think it's my best album in terms of my vocals. I think I've like grown and matured as a vocalist. And I think there's just a level of musicality, and it kind of like takes all the sounds of all the other albums and like kind of blends them together in a way that I think is really cool. And it just has this haunting sound to it that I don't know if I've ever really achieved. So I'm really proud of it.
I know everything that the band comes out with, that's their best work yet. But do you feel this new album had to come out swinging, so to speak, for the band after all this?
Yeah, I think it did. Like I feel like it's I mean, I always made the music I wanted to hear, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
But when you're feeling insecure and you feel like you have to chase a trend, sometimes you're trying to like create a fake version of yourself that you think people would like, more people would like. So I think I was doing that for a while with some of my music. And this is really like back to the roots of like what I would most want to create. And at the same time, people are telling me like, this is the best stuff that you've done. So it feels like it's the most authentic after, since GÅDHEAD pretty much, which was totally authentic. I mean, when I made GÅDHEAD, I wasn't interested in musical trends. I wasn't even aware. I was in my own world because I was on drugs and shit for the first half of the album. And I wasn't even like known in the music community, or I was nobody basically. So I was just off in my own little world. I didn't care about trends or any of that shit. I didn't have people telling me, oh, well, if you, add this beat, or if you sing like this, you'll be more popular, blah, blah, blah. All that shit came afterwards, right? Like once I started getting more success, I had a lot of people whispering in my ear, like, you should be this, you should be that. So this record is really the first time since then where I just like shut all that stuff out and just did exactly what I want. And I think in the end, that's what creates the best result.
You know, folks, I'm not bragging or anything, but I had Justin on here when he first was releasing GÅDHEAD, and it's cool to see the growth of these folks, where they started and now where they're at now. You know, it's cool. I feel like, hey, you know, they get big, they're gonna be back on my show.
Yes. Yeah, no, and that's another like a full circle kind of thing.
Yeah. All right, Justin, what led the track Black and Yellow to be that first song released off this album? What was it about that when it said, let's get this one out first? I know there could have been others that could have went out first, but why that one?
I think it just felt new and fresh. And a lot, like some of the other songs on GODHEAD, like I said, they've been kicking around since like 2015, right after we put out GÅDHEAD. That's where they started. So those, I was like, let me update these. Let me like find new life in these. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, Black and Yellow just kind of came out swinging because it was written, originally it came from a bass riff that was written by our bassist, Rozen. And so it was written by a new member. Lorraine happened to be hanging out with us, and he just did this amazing guitar work. And then our guitarist, Ania, added rhythm guitar as well. And it just kind of came together really seamlessly. So I said, you know, let's start with something fresh and new. And then let's kind of like work in these songs that we've been incubating for a while. And so Black and Yellow, it was just so spontaneous that I said this one was the first one that sounded like it was done. Let's just put this out right now and just to announce like this is a new era that's starting and kind of just get the ball rolling.
Was there a track for the album that totally ended up sounding different than what it was intended to? Was there one that when you went back and looked, you said, we got to change all this?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the original songs, like GODHEAD, the title track has morphed and changed. And I think it has this bluesy heaviness to it that I love. But it kind of, like I said, with the original version, it lost a little bit of that industrial flavor. Mm-hmm. So I was able to bring that back into it. And like Ania added an incredible solo to it, and it just took it to the next level. There's a song called Heaven's Gate that just, I mean, it has like this gothic rock sound to it that's really phenomenal. That's going to be one of the singles. And, you know, all the songs, like especially the songs that we had written before, really like morphed and changed as they evolved into what they are now. And there's even some songs towards the end of the record that are incredibly spiritual to me, where it kind of transcends away from the industrial rock sound that I'm known for. And it goes into another zone that's almost like acoustic, like a dreamy acoustic psychedelic almost. But I don't like saying that because it kind of is misleading because it sounds like some Pink Floyd shit or something. But it's really like when you hear it, it has this just like eeriness to it that I think towards the end of the record, it reaches a whole nother zone of that I've never really explored before. And I think people will be pretty amazed overall by the journey that this record takes them on.
Any songs that did not make this album, we can see on another album, EP, or just a standalone single down the road?
Actually, Bleed. Bleed is a song that was written during the sessions for this album, and it was a new song, like Black and Yellow. It was not part of the original GODHEAD stuff. It became a song that we wanted to release because we want to keep people engaged and keep the ball going. And so I had this song mixed, and I was like, I don't know if this is going to be on the record or not because it's not really part of the story for the record, but it's a cool song. So we just went ahead and popped off a video for it. Bleed is not going to be on the record GODHEAD, however. And there are some other songs that were written in this same era that will end up becoming singles probably later on, like after the GODHEAD stuff is rolled out, because they just don't really fit in the story. It is kind of a concept record. It tells a story. So there are songs that don't fit in that narrative, and they're really good songs, but they're just not, they're not for the album.
Even though this is a concept album, is the track listing placement important for your album or EP releases?
Yeah, I think the track listing of the album itself is really important. It starts off with almost a sense of arrogance. It's about someone finding themselves spiritually and then losing themselves and then finding themselves again, which has really ended up being my story. So it starts off with a song called "The Holiest of the Holies," which was part of the original Godhead demos, and that one is very much about like the decadence of our society now, where everyone wants to play God. Everybody thinks they have all the answers. They think they're so clever, and like we kind of look at the world and we just it's like, oh, we know it all. Science explains everything for us. There's no mystery anymore. There's, God is dead. That's another song where it's the similar sense of like arrogance. Like we don't, basically like the spiritual world has no relevance in today's modern society, which is all technology driven. So I talk about that and that whole attitude that people have, and that even I've had as an individual, like this arrogance that I've had, and then how that kind of falls apart because when you really hit bottom, all the technology, all the social media, all the likes, all the whatever, that's not going to save you. You got to reach in for something deeper. And so it has that arc. It tells that story.
What's the nucleus, though, Justin, that keeps you moving and this band moving right along and still creating the God Bombs music, man? What's that nucleus, you think?
I mean, it's just a sense of spirituality. And it's like music, creation is spiritual. So the act of creating, for someone that's a creative, they have to create. And you have people in your family, a lot of people that are artists, their families telling them just grow up, get a real job, give up. And they don't understand, like if an artist does that, if I did that, I'll just speak for myself. If I gave up, if I just threw in the towel, I would probably just self-destruct. I need to create to survive. And I think that I needed to tell this story. Again, I've had people telling me, oh, this story is too complex, or like people don't understand these themes that you're talking about. These are really big themes, and people want to hear love songs and all this stuff. And this is a story I had to tell. So it's not even, it's really about a need to create something in order to survive. You have to tell your story. That's where I feel like I'm coming from.
All right, now we're going to throw the God Bombs out the window now. We're just going to focus specifically on you, my friend, put you on the hot seat here a little bit about Justin Simple. Let's do this. If you could write an album, Justin, equivalent to your favorite band's album, which album would that be?
I mean, it would be Godhead. And I'm being honest when I answer that, because my favorite record is probably Antichrist Superstar by Marilyn Manson. And in a sense, Antichrist Superstar is all about becoming your own God and destroying the God of the Bible. And this is the kind of inversion, in a sense. It's about destroying my own ego, my own sense of self-importance that put me in bad situations over the years, all my fears and stuff, and just giving my will over to something higher than myself. So it's almost like the polar inversion of Antichrist Superstar, but at the same time, it has a connection and an influence from Antichrist Superstar.
What's been your most memorable show that the band has been a part of that you still cannot believe to this day that it happened for you, if it has happened?
I think touring with Ministry was a dream come true. I was really a fan of Ministry. I mean, to the point where I was like, when I was a teenager, Ministry was considered like an older band that wasn't really, I mean, when I was growing up, it was more about like Slipknot and the newer, like the metalcore stuff. But I always look back at Ministry and I was like, nah, you guys don't understand. Ministry is the cool, like they're the ones that they kind of like paved the way for all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, they are just the coolest band. I would tell all my friends about Ministry and I would play them Ministry shit. And they would just be like, whoa, this is really dark, man. I don't get it. And for us to be opening for Ministry on an entire tour, that was like a dream come true moment of, wow, we're really, it was like, wow, like all this artistic journey that like everyone's telling me in my family is like telling me to give up or something. I'm like, nah, like this is like been one of the crowning achievements of my life. I mean, I was on a ministry message board as a teenager and they would make fun of me. I would post my new music. And back then I was, when you're just starting out, you're pretty much garbage. And I post my music and they'd be like, dude, this is trash. And then they watched me grow up, and to the point where I posted on that same message board, okay, now I'm opening for ministry. So it was like, damn, like they were kind of like, wow, you really like persevered. And I would say like that was one moment. And then like working with Daisy Berkowitz was another moment of like, wow, this is one of my heroes and he's playing on my stuff. And even now, like we're about to play Gathering of the Juggalos, and I have so much respect for the Juggalos and the Insane Clown Posse thing, because they really stuck to their own vision. Like they didn't compromise. They didn't try to fit in. They did their own thing. It's their own community. And it's so genuine, and the people are so cool and so nice. And just to be on that bill at Gathering of the Juggalos, it's like, wow, this is another dream come true of something that I always envisioned. But like, just because you envision it doesn't always mean it's going to happen. Right. Yeah. So, it's been a lot of those things. And, I have other goals and stuff, and I hope that those will also materialize soon.
Man, I keep envisioning me winning the lottery big time. I keep envisioning it's going to happen one day. It's going to happen.
Well, without believing in it, it can't happen. But
I believe in it. I believe in it full wholeheartedly, because when I go grab that ticket, I'm going to say next week, I'm going to go buy my house and just escape and get out of here. It will happen, folks. And when it happens, I will still be doing BODS Mayhem Hour, but I'll still be doing my thing. All right, Justin, if I can pretty much know what this answer is going to be, but if you could be a member in an iconic band and play one of their legendary shows, which band would it be and what show would it be?
A member in someone else's band. That's a good one. I mean, I don't know. I would like to be at 9 Inch Nails Woodstock 94. I think that would have been really dope. Obviously I love Pink Floyd. I'd love to be a fly on the wall with like David Bowie or something. But at the end of the day, I just want to be me, and I want to have my story. So my answer is me right now.
All right, folks, you want to get out and pick up these new singles from the God Bombs entitled Bleed and Black and Yellow featuring Chris Lorraine. Please get out and check this band out. Give them a fair shot too, for me and for Justin's sake. Come on, folks. Just give them a chance. Justin, my friend, how can folks stay in touch with the God Bombs, purchase anything and everything that's out there, and especially this new album that's going to drop soon?
Just search the God Bombs. We're on Spotify. We're on Instagram. TheGodBombs.com is the official website. And you can also get merch on that website as well. And just go to YouTube, search the God Bombs, and you'll find the official channel. And you can always get in touch with us by writing us at godbombsband@gmail.com. And join the movement right now before it gets too big, and I won't be answering your emails. So now is the time.
Justin threw out the old school way. Hey, drop me an email. Come on. Let's do it the old school way. My friend, before I let you go, would you care to do another promo for my show?
Absolutely. This is Justin Symbol of the God Bombs, and you are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour, your number one source for all the great inside interviews. You want to get out and check out the Facebook page. It has our podcast link and our YouTube link. And I hope that you guys and gals go subscribe to that YouTube link if you like what I'm doing, and I hope that you are. I truly appreciate it. I really do. And do me another favor, please go out and check out the God Bombs. Pick up this new album, GodHead, when it releases. Also go pick up GÅDHEAD and check out these new tracks, Bleed and Black and Yellow. And trust me, like I said, just give them a fair shot. Justin, my friend, as always, I wish you nothing but the best of luck, and you're always welcome on here. You know that.
Likewise. Thank you so much, brother.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.